Hi guys, so in this video, I'm going to talk you through pretty much everything you need to know about protein. It's going to be a little bit of a longer one, but I'm going to try and keep it down to about 15 minutes. So if you can't watch it in one go, save it, pause it, read through it. There's going to be loads and loads of information in this that you will find really useful, will help you increase your protein intake, understand why we need it, what the roles are, and all of that. So let's get started with what protein is. Protein is a macronutrient. It's one of the main places that we get our calorie intake from, along with carbs and fats. It contains 4 calories per gram. Okay, so if you consume 100 grams of protein, you are getting 400 calories. Brilliant. It's built up of amino acids. Amino acids are the basic building blocks of proteins. They're also the building blocks of us. They basically make everything within our body, from all the different tissues like muscle, skin, all of that sort of stuff, plus all of the chemicals or the enzymes that control the reactions in our body and our hormones. So they are important to us. Without protein, we would not survive. Our DNA is literally built up of these amino acids, so we would not be here without proteins. Now, that being said, how much do we need? So as a minimum requirement to avoid any kind of health issues, it's kind of been found that we need around about 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. Okay, now that's lean body weight, so that is kind of the lean body tissue, and we'll come to that in a second. But 0.8 kilograms per kilogram body weight, that avoids any sort of symptoms of deficiency, means that you've got enough for the basic functions. The government guidelines are 45 grams for women and 55 grams for men, but they are based on average values and actually don't really apply to today's society. So, for example, if you are a woman who weighs around about 70 kilos, which is a fairly typical sort of weight, then the minimum amount of protein that you should be eating is around about sort of 50 to 55 grams of protein. That is higher than the government recommendations, which would actually put you at risk of protein deficiency in the long term. And it's the same for men. Men is 55 grams of protein per day, but if you are somebody who is heavier than, say, 80, 90 kilos, then again, you would be requiring more than that minimum amount. Now, that is the amount to avoid deficiency. To actually have a healthy body function and not just cover the basic amounts, we need around about 1.2 grams per kilogram. So for that 70 kilo person, then they would be looking at around about 80 to 85 grams of protein per day. Now, that applies for people who are in the middle, sort of up to middle age, who are maintaining weight, who aren't particularly exercising aggressively, who haven't got the goal of trying to build muscle. All right. So if your goal is to build muscle, if you are in a calorie deficit, if you are older, so sort of 45, 50 and above, then your protein requirements are higher. So for people who are in a calorie deficit, who are trying to build some muscle, who are older, then they need to be hitting around about 1.5 grams per kilo to maintain optimal health, to maintain lean muscle tissue and things like that. Now, if you do not consume enough protein, what's going to happen? Well, as we age, we lose muscle mass. This is just one of the things that happens, and it's called muscle sarcopenia, so muscle wastage. Now, if we lose muscle mass, we're actually going to be losing some of our metabolic rate. That is going to decrease because our muscles are more metabolically active. That is, they burn more calories than other tissues within our body. So if we lose more muscle mass and we are developing sort of higher body fat percentages, then our metabolic rate drops. And that is why we have this kind of drop off in metabolic rate once people sort of hit 55, 60 and above. Okay, so when we're younger, we should be consuming higher amounts of protein, that sort of 1.2, 1.5 grams per kilo, to preserve our muscle tissue and our lean body mass later on in life, to prevent that metabolic rate drop off and prevent some of the older age later on or later life weight gain. Other things that it can help prevent as well is it can help prevent loss of strength, and it can help prevent some of the other sort of conditions, things like type 2 diabetes, things like your risk of developing cancers, heart disease. So a higher protein diet has been linked to a lower risk of long-term illness in the future. It's also great if your goal is weight management, because protein actually has what we call a higher thermic effect. It takes more energy to break protein down than it does carbohydrates and fats. So for every 100 calories of protein we consume, your body uses about 25 to 30 of those calories simply to digest it. Now that compares to around about 5 calories for carbohydrates and just 1 out of 100 for fats. So if we want to kind of help increase our metabolic rate again and consume more protein, your body's got to work harder to digest the food that you eat, and therefore you are going to be burning more calories, and it will help with weight management. Protein also regulates appetite. It's exceptionally good at keeping you satiated. It increases the amount of the satiety hormone, that's leptin. Leptin makes you feel fuller for longer. So consume protein increases the amounts of leptin, and it decreases the hormone that makes you feel hungry, that's ghrelin. Okay, so if we consume more protein, we get lower levels of ghrelin, higher levels of leptin, and we feel less hungry for longer. So there are lots and lots of benefits there for protein for those of you who are trying to perhaps control body weight and achieve a different body composition goal. Again, if we're building muscle, we definitely need protein, because protein is the building blocks for muscle. And specifically, we need an amino acid called leucine, and leucine is found in animal-based proteins primarily. Okay, so if you are somebody who is plant-based, then you may well need to take certain supplements, so plant-based protein powders to help hit that kind of leucine threshold to maintain muscle. But if you are just somebody who has an omnivorous diet, eats everything, then things like your meats, so animal products, meats, dairy products, things like that are going to help you achieve your leucine threshold to build muscle. We also need to hit that leucine threshold to maintain muscle. Now, it's not a huge amount. It's only sort of 2 to 3 grams in a particular protein serving. So again, if you're getting 25 to 30 grams of protein in with a meal, you are very likely going to hit that leucine threshold, and therefore you're going to help maintain and preserve or even build the muscle. So that's another reason why we should be aiming to spread our protein out across the day. Now, there is a bit of a myth out there that says you need to be consuming a protein shake straight after a workout within 30 minutes, otherwise you lose all the gains. It's completely rubbish. As long as you are getting enough protein in across the day and spread it out as best you can, then you are going to be getting adequate protein for all of your needs, whether it's health, building muscle, maintaining muscle, losing weight, all of those. All right, so how much protein? How do we get it in? What does a serving look like? Getting your protein in nowadays is really easy with things like this. This is just a simple pre-made protein shake. Actually, this is a really good one, and we'll talk about why shortly. So, good protein sources. We know protein is found in a lot of animal-based products, so dairy products, meat, eggs, stuff like that. We also find it in nuts, seeds, some vegetables, so chickpeas, legumes, lentils, all of those sorts of things. Tofu as well. Tofu is a product of a soybean, so again, we can get protein in from there. Now, there are others. I'm not going to go and list the name and list through them. What makes a good protein source first? Well, a good protein source is one that contains at least 7 to 7.5 grams of protein per 100 calories. So there is this thing that's called a CTP score, that's calorie to protein score. And you're looking for something that has a score of about 7.5 or above. So that is 7.5 calories per 7.5 grams of protein per 100 calories. Now, this protein shake is particularly good. It's got 20 grams of protein and it contains 160 calories. So if you divided 20 by 160, it would give you quite a lot. 12 to 14 grams of protein. I can't work the maths out in my head while I'm talking to you, but it give you quite a lot of protein. Whey protein powders, again, they give you 20 grams of protein to roughly 100 calories. So the whey protein powder CTP score is going to be around about 20. This is one of about 12 to 14. Your protein bars. So protein bars are about 20 grams of protein per 200, 220 calories. So again, you're looking at a CTP score of 9 to 10. Those are good. Eggs, 6 grams of protein in a medium egg to around 60 calories, a CTP score of 10. So if you want to work out what the score is, take the number of calories, divide it by the grams of protein, and that gives you that. And anything above 7.5 is a high protein source. And then anything above 7.5 is going to be a high protein meal if you work out the calories to protein over your meal. All right. So that's kind of what you want to be aiming for. Now, because of that, there are certain foods that we might think of as high protein, like peanut butter, for example. So peanut butter has a very low CTP score. Well, not very low, but it's about 5 to 6. So it's below that kind of protein threshold that we set. So, peanut butter is actually, it does contain protein. It contains quite a bit of protein, but it also contains a lot of fat. So therefore its calories are really, really high. So like a tablespoon, for example, of peanut butter is 100 calories. It might contain 4, 5, 6 grams of protein per tablespoon. But with that 100 calories there, you've only got a CTP score of 4 to 6, which isn't particularly high. Now, if you want to add it to your food because it tastes good, great. If you want to add it to your food because it's a source of good unsaturated fats, great. Okay, but don't put it in as a protein source. And with that being said, there are a lot of foods out there that are labeled as high protein when in fact they're not. So some of these health bars, the nut bars that you get labeled as high protein, they might have 200 calories and only 9 grams of protein. So their CTP score is only 5. I've got some protein wraps that I get from Aldi, 180 calories per wrap, 10 grams of protein. So again, the CTP score is not great there. It's only sort of 5, maybe 6. So not that great. However, if, for example, with that wraps, they are very similar. I use wraps quite a lot. So I might use a normal tortilla wrap. That's got about 4.5, 5 grams of protein per wrap. These wraps are the same. It's 180 calories, the same as the tortilla wrap, but they've got 10 grams of protein, so double the amount of protein. So you can use them. They have uses. However, do not use them as a high protein source. Hope that makes sense. All right. So there's an awful lot of information there. We've talked about what proteins are, why we need them, and then also kind of this high protein versus low protein foods. Essentially though, you don't need to be relying on stuff like this to get your protein in. You can get adequate amounts of protein in through 3 good meals a day and 1 protein-based snack. Why don't we want to rely on these? Because you're not going to get enough of the other nutrients that you need, so the vitamins and minerals. 3 good protein-based meals, so 3 meals that contain 30 to 35 grams of protein per day, with a protein snack that contains 10 to 20 grams of protein, you can very, very easily hit a protein target of 100 to 120 grams of protein per day. And that is enough for the vast majority of people. Okay, so anybody who's telling you should be hitting 150 grams of protein with a 1600 calorie a day target, it's not realistic. You can do it, but it's hard work and it makes it very restrictive. It makes it hard to go and social. You try and go and socialize and have a couple of drinks and a meal out when you're trying to get 150 grams of protein in with either 15 or 1600 calories. It's damn hard and it's not sustainable. And when you miss it that one day, that's when we fall into that trap of not adhering to the diet and falling off the wagon. 100 to 120 grams of protein on a 1600 calorie a day diet is far more achievable and gives you room for the foods that you enjoy and those social occasions as well. Okay, so 3 good meals. What's a protein portion? Well, for red meat and oily fish, Something about the size and thickness of your palm. For things like your whitefish and your chicken, then something the size of your palm and your fingers, and again the thickness. That would be your protein portion. A tin of tuna, for example, 150 to 200 grams of zero fat Greek yogurt, not 2 tablespoons. 3 eggs would be a protein portion, not 1. Okay? And definitely not your couple of tablespoons of peanut butter on your toast. So make sure you are putting a good protein source within your meal. Okay, so if you're having your salad at lunch, it's not just 2 thin slices of ham. Put a chicken breast in there. When you're having your meal in the evening and you're having your spaghetti bolognese, it's not a plate full of pasta and 1 small spoonful of meat. It's a small amount of pasta, and really ladle that meat on. Get the meat on there, because that's the thing that is going to make you full, not the pasta. That is the thing that's going to give you the energy and the nutrients and the protein that you need as the building blocks, not the pasta. So make sure you're getting adequate amounts of protein in there. Yes, it's a different way of thinking of things. Yes, it will require you to change your habits. But yes, it is massively beneficial. Hope this helped. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything else you want to know. Bye for now.